We're reading from The Gun Rights War by Neal Knox. This is about the middle of section 3. It's called Kennedy's Bodyguard. It's on page 131, and it's dated February 26, 1986. If you get into trouble with Washington's gun laws, the man to call for help is Ted Kennedy. That's the chuckle going around town since Ted Kennedy's bodyguard was arrested for carrying a pistol and 2 submachine guns and 146 rounds of ammo in 6 magazines into the Senate office building. The bodyguard, Chuck Stein, was on his way to Kennedy's office and quite innocently asked the guard if he could leave the guns with him. The guard kept not only the guns, but Stein. Kennedy press aide Bob Mann told the Washington Post that the bodyguard was arrested because of a technical glitch in the law and that the bodyguard wouldn't have been in trouble if he'd simply kept his guns in his car. Not so. He was in violation of the law from the moment he stepped into D.C., which prohibits possession of both machine guns, defined to include semi-autos capable of more than 12 shots without reloading, and unregistered handguns, to which can no longer be registered. D.C.'s law even prohibits possession of ammunition for unregistered guns. But Mann told the Post, "This office is in strict support of gun control laws, and we take no issue with everyone following legal procedures." Well, almost everyone. Kennedy personally made a flurry of calls trying to get his bodyguard and his guns turned loose. No luck on the guns, a Beretta and a pair of Uzis, which by law must be destroyed. But Kennedy did get the bodyguard released after a couple of hours, in time to accompany him on a South American trip where he was able to borrow guns from U.S. embassies. Common folk attempting to leave their guns with the Capitol or White House guards usually end up spending the night in the slammer. I called Mann in Kennedy's office today to find out the status of the case. Mann said he understood a trial date had been set, but that Kennedy would have no comment. Kennedy has supported laws, such as the one in his home state of Massachusetts, providing for mandatory sentences of persons illegally carrying firearms. I asked Mann if, in light of the Stein incident, Kennedy might rethink his position. To put it mildly, Mann came unglued, fuming that several editorials had linked the Stein incident to the senator's position on gun control, as you're attempting to do. Mann said there was no similarity between the case of a U.S. senator, 2 of whose brothers had been assassinated and who had received threats on his own life traveling in foreign country with a bodyguard, compared to someone mad and running down to a gun shop to buy a Saturday night special to kill somebody. I told Mann that I had no quarrel with Kennedy being protected with firearms, but the rest of us wanted the same privilege. He told me it simply isn't the same. That's right, my name isn't Kennedy. The next section is called Unintended Consequences of a Bullet Ban Campaign. It's on page 132, and it's dated January 26, 1988. During a 13-hour period in early January, 4 Southern California police officers were wounded in 3 separate shootings. 3 of the officers were critically wounded, 2 with shots to the head. 2 months before, a Baltimore officer almost died from a shot in his face. In late January, a Dallas officer wearing a Kevlar vest was killed with his own gun, with 3 shots to the head. Inevitably, each of these tragedies have or will trigger fresh editorial demands for more gun control. But just such editorials from the same publications and organizations may have been responsible for the fact that these officers were killed or critically wounded instead of bruised by a bullet that failed to penetrate a Kevlar vest. To put it bluntly, officers have died because of Handgun Control Inc.'s successful, quote, campaign to ban the so-called cop killer bullets, also in quotes. Certain hard metal bullets, such as the Teflon-coated KTW design, when driven at moderate velocities, are capable of penetrating lightweight Kevlar cloth body armor worn by police. Because of that capability, they were called cop killers. Yet no such bullet ever killed a cop. By the penetration of body armor, they were banned by a 1986 law, but the fruits of the Handgun Control Inc. campaign will haunt policemen for years. In countless photos and television clips, criminals were shown Kevlar police vests and told how to defeat them. Cop killer criminals reacted logically. An increasing number shot police officers in body areas not protected by the vests. Detroit Police Sergeant Evan Marshall predicted these results at a Senate briefing 4 years ago. He told how 3 friends were killed by thugs who later admitted they were deliberately aimed to hit areas unprotected by the Kevlar vests, which they correctly assumed the officers were wearing. There has been another effect since criminals learned that so-called bulletproof vests could be penetrated by more powerful guns. They are arming with 9mm, 357, 44 Magnum handguns instead of the relative pipsqueak 22 rimfire Saturday night specials. Now police groups are pleading that they be rearmed with weapons at least as good as those being carried by the crooks. An even broader unintended effect against both police and potential robbery victims will result from the well-meaning campaign to keep handguns out of the reach of criminals. If any law, whether a handgun ban or a background check of purchasers or dealers, were to keep handguns from predatory handgun-using criminals, 72% would substitute a more lethal sawed-off shotgun and rifle, according to a $400,000 Justice Department study of imprisoned felons. That means that if handgun bans worked, more innocent people would be killed, as a handgun-wielding criminal switched to sawed-off shotguns, which are 3 times as deadly as handguns. The only way to avoid such unintended results is to concentrate upon regulating actions instead of attempting to regulate things. If that means building more prisons and dealing with more harshly with those victims of society who prey on society, so be it. Then the third one section is called On Civilization and Hurricane Hugo, dated October 4th, 1989. In a time of disaster, whether man-made or natural, whether in war, famine, earthquake, or tornado, the rats come out of their holes. When Hurricane Hugo devastated the U.S. Virgin Islands, about 200 escapees from a damaged prison joined the gangs of thugs, including police and National Guard troops, who looted and robbed and terrorized both citizens and tourists, some of whom reported fending off armed gangs of robbers who tried to break into their hotels. Reports of what happened have been quashed by the governor's office, but an indication of just how serious it was. The anti-gun Washington Post had a front-page photo of a hotel owner standing guard with a rifle, and an article in today's edition opened by quoting a note sent from the St. Croix with the pilot. It said, "Mom and Dad, still alive. Take the worst you've heard and double it. Please send 9mm and 45 automatic. This isn't a joke. Love, Mark." The Post didn't tell us whether he got the gun, nor whether a waiting period or licensing prevented his parents from buying one when needed. It didn't mention that importing the gun to St. Croix would have violated local law, and that for his parents to have given him any gun, for the pilot to have taken it to him, would have been a violation of several laws, including the 1968 Gun Control Act. The pilot who carried the note said the Post reporter, Michael York, that a few days after the hurricane, he and some friends drove to town and confronted a car containing 4 armed Rastafarians, members of a Jamaican religious cult. Essentially, they said they were white boys who needed a good beating. the pilot said. After it was clear that we had guns too, we were able to get away. Constance Holmes, for 10 years an attorney on St. Croix, told the reporter that when she checked her office, she was terrified to find gangs of looters, but no police. I went straight home, and I have slept with a .38 beside my pillow. She said I could see that it was the only way to be safe. What about the common people of St. Croix, who generally aren't allowed to have any kind of firearm? How did they stay safe? The short answer is, they didn't. We heard reports not only of looting and robbery, but of rapes, which hasn't been confirmed, but probably happened. That's the kind of thing that happens when disaster strikes. The rats come out of their holes, and the law-abiding lack the means to defend themselves. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, which is being roundly criticized for its handling of the Hugo devastation, reportedly has regulations and an unconstitutional presidential order allowing them to declare all firearms contraband during a disaster. Whether such a disaster is man-made or natural, that is the one time that no one, not FEMA, not police, not a marauding gang, is going to take my guns without a fight. To guard against such a terrible day and the horror of being disarmed and helpless, to defend our families against marauders in or out of uniform, is one reason for the Second Amendment's guarantee of the right of the people to keep and bear arms, and that's one reason I will continue to do everything within my power to defend that right. Thank you for supporting our projects. If you'd like to buy us a cup of coffee, check out our Patreon channel.
The guys and gals at gunwebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thank you for watching gunwebsites.com.